MMORPGs, the promise of entire worlds to spend countless hours on, to live a whole other life. A promise rarely fulfilled, unfortunately, as this is a genre with an ever-expanding graveyard of games. So, welcome to my list of the best MMORPGs of the last decade. It's hard to objectively say which surviving MMOs are the best, but we can look at the general consensus along with how large and lasting the player bases are. From what I can see, despite many MMOs releasing, we get one successful and a popular one every year. That gives us 10 surviving MMO releases for the last 10 years, and that's what we'll be looking at today. To see all the upcoming and in-development MMOs, be sure to check out my upcoming games list, and if you appreciate what you see here, please do like, subscribe, and share the video with other MMO fans, as it really does keep this channel and these videos running. Alright, now let's get started. Kicking things off back in 2010, the release of Final Fantasy XIV by Square Enix, currently having a daily peak concurrent players of around 20,000. Now, I know many will say that Final Fantasy XIV wasn't all that great in 2010, and that it needed an overhaul before it became truly popular. It was met with almost universal negative reception, but that's really the case for the majority of MMORPGs, as they are more like ongoing projects than actual finished products. So we're going to stick to the original release years for this list, and since it's become one of the most popular MMOs of the decade, it's definitely worth mentioning here. 8 unique races, a gear-based class system that you can change as you see fit, tab targeting, combat, PvE, and multiple types of PvP, jobs, housing, crafting, and plenty of customization including fashion, all set in a magical world of Final Fantasy. The overhaul, along with multiple expansions, has filled the game with an abundance of content, and thousands of players are happy to keep on playing Final Fantasy XIV, even 10 years later. So they're doing something right. And if you haven't already, now is as good a time as any to jump in if you've been curious. In 2011, we got Star Wars: The Old Republic by BioWare, where the daily peak concurrent players estimated around 10,000, but it's hard to confirm. One of the most praised MMORPGs of all time. Anytime I hear someone talk about Star Wars: The Old Republic, they are speaking positively. A storyline so good that people say it should be turned into a solo adventure if the servers are ever shut down. This is a game that's a no-brainer if you're into Star Wars and MMOs. Play as Jedi, Sith, Bounty Hunter, or one of the many other roles available in a universe set 3,000 years before the classic films. Adventure with companions, fight in lightsaber duels and shootouts, pilot your ship, and more, as it's almost a decade old and been packing itself with content over the years. Still worth getting into today, even getting a new expansion in 2019. It's free to play, though there is a subscription mode to lift restrictions, but if you've been missing out, then there's no time like the present to get into Star Wars: The Old Republic. In 2012, we got Guild Wars 2 by ArenaNet. The daily peak concurrent players is secret, but the all-time peak was 460,000. Definitely a big one of the decade. This is an MMO that has had a strong presence over the years, and its all-time peak concurrent players of 460,000 is definitely nothing to scoff at. Unfortunately, its popularity, although still strong, does seem to be waning, but we can't tell exactly how much, as its concurrent player count today is not public knowledge. It's got action, combat, impressive landscapes, a dynamic living world, personal stories as you take on quests, along with competitive PvP and world v world gameplay. 5 races and 8 professions, there's a good set of playstyles open to you. Overall, Guild Wars 2 is a solid entry all around. There's a free account version that you can use to check out the game, and to unlock the full experience, it's buy to play. And it's always been a favorite of the genre, so if you like what you're seeing, then it's a safer choice of MMO. And then into 2013, we got Neverwinter by Cryptic Studios, with a daily peak concurrent players right now of 2,500. This is an MMO that's been slowly dwindling in popularity over the years, but still has a good few thousand players keeping it alive. Based on Dungeons & Dragons, this is a game with epic stories, action combat, and classic role-playing, all set in the world of Neverwinter. There's a big focus on PvE and dungeon delving with friends, and it can be fun, but with the small player base, the game seems to be struggling to keep new content coming, making old players get a bit tired of the game after a while. Having said that, it still got very positive reviews recently on Steam, so it's clearly good for a niche audience. Just the recent content updates don't seem to be impressing many people. It's free to play, so you can check it out yourself pretty easily if you're attracted to what you're seeing in Neverwinter. Then 2014 came rolling around and we got The Elder Scrolls Online by Zenimax Online Studios, currently with a daily peak concurrent players of 30,000. A multiplayer Elder Scrolls game was on a lot of people's wish list for years, and when Elder Scrolls Online arrived, it was met with some mixed reactions. After releasing and continuing to develop, this became possibly the biggest MMO that's released in the last decade, just based on how many people play it every day and the very positive reviews. And it now has a series of expansions and tons of content to keep you going. Battle, craft, steal, and explore while combining equipment and skills to fine-tune your playstyle. Now, it is a buy-to-play game, but some find the subscribe for improvements to be double-dipping as monetization methods go. So despite the big selling point of no subscription required, you might want to have a closer look at what you're actually not getting with a purchase before entering this world. They boast 13 million players, but it's always hard to verify those numbers. But the daily concurrent is the highest of any game on Steam in this list, so if you get into The Elder Scrolls Online, you won't be alone. And then we have Black Desert Online from 2015 by Pearl Abyss, with a daily peak concurrent players of around 20,000. A vast open-world, skill-based non-target action combat, large-scale PvP siege wars, along with plenty of MMO activities like adventuring, fishing, sailing, crafting, cooking. There's a lot to the game, and your personal progression matters too, with specifically knowledge-based content that relies on what you know as a player. There's also extensive customizations for your character, because, we always like fashion. Originally releasing in 2015, this is a Korean MMO that was massively popular and got a Western release in 2016 and continued to spread around the world in the following years, building up to an updated, remastered version releasing in 2018. It looks great, and with a huge player base, it's as alive as ever, so it's most likely going to keep going for a while more. Having said that, a new game in the series is on the way now, Crimson Desert, which might have Black Desert players migrate over if it's really good, but it's not always a guarantee that a sequel is better than its predecessor. So we'll see how that goes. And then into 2016, we have Tree of Savior by IMCGAMES, with a daily peak concurrent players of around 3,000. This is one of the smaller success stories in the last decade of MMORPGs, and it's definitely not to everyone's tastes. Kind of like Ragnarok Online, a much older game from 2002, this is an Asian MMO, so for those who are familiar with the approach, you know the vibe that this one will have. A distinct art style, PvP arena, guild v guild content, class-based progression, along with plenty of jobs, choices, and customizations with outfits, housing, and community stuff. Overall, it has mixed reviews on Steam, but recent ones are few but very positive. So it's a great one for a smaller player base, and it's managed to stay at a few thousand concurrent players for years. There are complaints of bots, bugs, and grinding, so be sure to have a proper look before getting into this one. But if you're into Asian MMOs with some nostalgic inspirations, Tree of Savior might be worth checking out. And then in 2017, we got Albion Online by Sandbox Interactive, with a daily peak concurrent players of around 7,500. This is an MMO that I played in beta, and it's grown a lot since. A medieval fantasy sandbox MMORPG with a player-driven economy and classless combat with PvP battles. That sounds like a super generic and directionless MMO that we've heard of so many times before. And this one didn't really hit the ground running either, but eventually it made its mark. With mostly positive reviews on Steam now, many have been enjoying settling the land by planting crops and raising livestock, while others have been engaging in guild versus guild battles, attempting to conquer the world and regions in it. Though some find the combat to be a bit bland, the you are what you wear concept is a nice idea and allows you to change what your character can do with a wardrobe change. So if you get bored, you can switch it up without creating a new character. It might not be as AAA with super high production values that some MMO players are looking for, but Albion Online is well developed and has a ton of content that should appeal to you if you like what you see. And then in 2018, I know, it's Fallout 76 by Bethesda Game Studios with a daily peak concurrent players of around 6,000. I know what you're going to say. After the countless controversies, mess-ups, and just terrible gameplay, this MMO somehow has managed to become something that people actually really like. However, if you look at the history of MMOs, many follow the same path. The first couple years are just horrible, and then an overhaul comes and it gets a lot better. Releasing on Steam certainly helped too, and it even has mostly positive reviews there now. The Wastelanders update that boasts, amazingly, the addition of human NPCs has brought Fallout 76 to a point where many find it acceptable or even enjoyable. Will people forget all the missteps on the way to this point? Probably not. But if No Man's Sky could redeem itself, maybe this can too. Maybe. If you're looking to explore a post-apocalyptic wasteland, build your own base, go on expeditions, engage in 52-player PvP battle royales, journey through the new main quest, or even nuke the neighbors, then now might be an okay time to jump in, especially considering Fallout 76 often goes on sale now. Next, into 2019, which is a little harder to judge with its longevity, it's Conqueror's Blade, currently with daily peak concurrent players at about 6,000. The 10th and most recent game in this list, which means it's not guaranteed to be super long-lasting or successful, but it's currently managing to bring in a good few thousand players every day. This is an online tactical action game set in the Middle Ages where you're a warlord commanding hundreds of troops and laying siege to fortresses in 15 versus 15 battles. Ally, conquer, and rule the vast continent with a mix of RPG elements progressing as a warlord with some RTS elements in the open world strategy. Becoming playable and causing some waves in 2019, it's been more fully developed into 2020, but still having some issues. Looking at it, it's got mixed reviews on Steam, despite the decent player base, so it's one where you have to have a closer inspection before really committing to ensure it's for you. Time will tell if Conqueror's Blade continues to improve and become something that stays in this list, or if another 2019 release will pick up pace and replace it. Without a crystal ball, but 2020 and beyond, what do you think will actually make it? It's hard to judge which releasing or upcoming MMORPG is going to succeed in 2020 and 2021 and beyond that, as even if they're good at the start, we've seen many popular ones eventually die, like WildStar. Good candidates from what I can see are possibly Temtem, New World, Crimson Desert, or Life Beyond, but it's highly unlikely even all four of those will survive. It could also be one of the many others too, because there's a lot of MMORPGs in the works. So you might want to see what's on the way in my upcoming lists. And that's it, the last decade of MMORPGs, and despite what people say about the genre dying, it's going pretty much as it always has. Every year we get one lasting, successful, popular MMORPG, and it's kind of been like that since the 90s, with the exception of 2003 to 2005. It's just easy to think of that golden age when 3 or 4 massive MMOs released a year and think that's the norm, but that was the exception. So, which upcoming MMOs do you think will be the ones that last in 2020 and beyond? If you'd like to see what MMOs are on the way, I have a whole list showing off dozens of them, but only a couple will make it, so see if you can guess correctly. Alright, that's all for now. If you like this video, press the like button and subscribe for more new and old gaming. If you'd like to support the channel, you can become a member here on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, or support directly on Patreon at patreon.com/gamerzak. And please do join us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and the wonderful Discord community of the Zakalites over at discord.gg/gamerzak. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video.